Welcome, everybody, to Films and Fermentation, episode 48. Tonight is our Valentine's Day special. For all you lovebirds out there, you see I have my special background going for those of you watching on YouTube. It is a broken heart behind me because this is a different type of Valentine's Day special. Tonight we are talking about the most depressing films of all time. And if you hear an extra joyous lilt in my voice, it's because I love the irony of doing this sort of Valentine's Day special. I'm actually excited to talk about sad movies.
That's wrong.
So in this episode, we are going to talk about some films that are sad because of the subject matter, sad because of, the character relationships in the film. We're not
talking because about, they were made.
Yeah, not talking about any of those teeny bopper sad films like Walk to Remember or Fault in Our Stars, which is just ridiculous. We're going to talk about some, pretty adult subject matter here in terms of depressing films.
Deeply sad. Deeply sad.
Are we old enough to talk about adult stuff?
It depends.
Okay.
He said depends.
Give or take, yeah.
We're old enough for those, but
there we go. Mike is.
Don't remind me. Don't remind me.
All right. So, again, this is our Valentine's Day special. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
Make sure you visit us at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com. Drop us a line. Visit us on our social media platforms. And don't forget, if you listen to us on any of those podcast platforms out there, whether it be Spotify or Stitcher or iTunes, whatever it might be, make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you are notified of new episodes. Also, it helps us build the analytics for our audience if you subscribe to the show. And maybe drop a comment or two so that they know that we're out there.
Should they click on the link below?
Click on the link below.
Oh, wait, is there a link below? Click on the link below.
Click on the link
Look below. Click on the link below.
Click on the link below. If you're listening to it, there will be a link below if you're watching it.
Oh, I was looking below and didn't see a link.
I got to figure out how to do that first on YouTube. I know there's a way you can put like a link at the end of the video. Like you could drop a thumbnail in there that'll go somewhere else, but I don't know about anything else yet. So this day in film history, Mike, I actually threw this one on there. This is my
Bogarted it.
I bogarted it because I'm like, you know what? It's too important not to talk about this. On Tuesday of this week, February 8th, legendary composer John Williams celebrated his 90th birthday. At 90 years old, he is still an active composer, having recently worked on The Rise of Skywalker and as a musical consultant on Spielberg's remake of West Side Story. God bless him at 90 years old, still composing, working.
Yeah, I wonder if he's one of those people that if he stops working, he just like has nothing to do,
I would imagine if you're 90 and you're still composing music for movies.
And moreover, I really want to know what his first gig was. I'd like to hear some of the stuff from the beginning of his career, just to see how much it's changed and
like
evolved.
What was like his first movie that he ever did a composition for? I'd be curious.
Yeah.
I mean, we did a John Williams episode.
We did, and we covered his hits.
We covered all like the most popular things. You would have thought that we would have tried to like look at the old stuff, but yeah, we mostly talked about Jaws and Star Wars and things like that. So John Williams, let's see here. It looks good for 90 years old too. So let's see here. Filmography, music department, 200.
Probably moves better than we do.
I'm just going to go to the composer credits. There's only 162 of those. He is currently working on Indiana Jones 5.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
Good Lord.
Let's see here. First film that he composed a score for was in 1958. He composed a score for an episode of a TV series called Playhouse 90.
Oh, wow.
His first movie that he did a composition for was also in 1958. It was a movie called Daddy-O.
Okay.
And then it's a lot of like TV shows and stuff for most of the 50s and 60s. And it's not until the late 60s, I would say, when he starts getting some like bigger projects out there. Like he did the theme for Lost in Space TV show in 1965. Then he did The Plainsman in 1966. Ghost Breaker is funny in 1967. And then it was in the 70s that he, met Spielberg, and that's where it took off from there, because he did in 1970 Jane Eyre, and then he did the Poseidon Adventure in 72, The Long Goodbye in 73, and then it was The Towering Inferno in 74, Eiger Sanction, and then in 1975 he did Jaws, which was his first composition with Steven Spielberg. And it's just been history since then. Now that's 162 credits for composition. For music department, he has 281 credits. So man is very busy.
Keeps busy.
He's a very busy man. Yeah, I mean, good for him.
Yeah,
I was ready for a nap when I got home from work today. I'm only 44. What's your fun drink fact tonight, Mike? I'll let you take that one.
The Guinness Book of World Records was conceived by Hugh Beaver, executive director of Guinness Brewing Company. He came up with the idea of creating an authoritative source for pub goers to settle their disputes about the record of a particular phenomenon.
Like, I think you mispronounced his name. You see, there's a G in it. It's actually huge.
It's huge Beaver. In answer to your question, are we adults enough to talk about these films tonight?
No, we are not. Apparently not.
So far, the first 10 minutes.
I like the part of the
Depends joke and a huge Beaver joke.
I like the part of the text that says was conceived by Huge Beaver.
Hey, I like the particular phenomenon. Phenomenon.
Oh my god.
And we're doing this still sober.
Thanks for joining us tonight, folks. We'll see you next week on episode 49.
Well, we better go off the rails now because the depressing stuff's going
we're
to
already
show.
I've had 2 of these already that I'm drinking
Oh,
now. You'll
this is
find out
my
about
first,
that in a
but it
second.
won't be my last. This is delicious.
Wait to hear about mine. Okay.
Okay.
Notes from the last show. We forgot a lot of women on that list, and I'm very disappointed in myself for like one in particular. So some badass women we kind of forgot on that chart last week was Amelia Clark. Wasn't just in Game of Thrones; she was also in one of the Terminator films. She played a younger version of Sarah Connor. Michelle Pfeiffer, who was Catwoman in one of the Batman films. She was in Stardust. She was in a number of other films where she was, playing some action roles. Hilary Swank, you had $1 Million Baby, The Core. She was in a number of action films.
Next Karate Kid.
Yeah, next Karate Kid. And Margot Robbie. I can't believe I forgot Harley fucking Quinn.
Shame on you.
That is a very big shame on me.
Wolf of Wall Street, man.
And
big action role.
Talk about action. Whew.
And forgetting, since all of us forgot about her.
Talk about huge beavers.
Kev, we're revoking your DC card for forgetting about her as well.
Yes, I can't believe I'm so upset that I forgot her. Chloe Grace Moretz, who was in the Kick-Ass films. She played Hit Girl. And Jamie Lee Curtis for Halloween, True Lies, and a few other films. And I'm like, I can't believe we forgot those women. Like that's some big omissions there. And then for inspiring kick-ass women, Meryl Streep should be on there. She's made 900 movies. One of them's on this list tonight. So,
wonder why she's never won an Academy Award.
I wonder why she's won all the Academy Awards. Anymore now, like when she gets nominated, it's kind of like a like just an automatic. It's like, Meryl Streep's in a movie, nomination.
Yep.
Best key grip. How's that even possible?
How did she win for best caterer?
Best boy.
I recently watched Nightmare Alley, which we had talked about a couple episodes ago. It's like a movie I was anticipating.
Yeah.
With the Bradley Cooper, Kate Blanchett, Rooney Mara. It was a new Guillermo del Toro film. It's actually a remake of a film from 1947, which I did not know until I looked into the trivia for it a little bit. Okay. Spoiler alert, it was fucking boring.
Oh, that's very disappointing.
I fell asleep about halfway through it.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
I woke up and was still able to figure out where I was. Like I didn't miss that much. It was really long. It was 2.5 hours, but it was one of those 2.5 hour films that feels like 2.5 hours.
Oh, no.
Not good.
And I was really disappointed because I like
the cast is good.
Stacked cast.
Great director.
I like Del Toro's work. But it was like, I don't know, it was just
genre was good.
yeah. I mean, and the concept was good too. Like Bradley Cooper is a drifter who gets a job working at a circus with the freak show. And he learns the art of mesmerism, like tricking people in the audience into thinking he can speak with the dead, things like that.
Yeah.
And like the beginning part of the movie is him like learning it, and then the middle part is him going off and becoming a famous magician himself. And then the last part of the movie is just this like retribution angle where like I understand where it's going at the end. It's a big twist, so I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who actually wants to watch it. But it just took too long to get to that twist. Could have shaved. It's one of those movies where I'll just say could have shaved a half hour off probably.
Okay.
Because it took a long
Good
time
to know.
anything like really big to happen,
Right.
Bradley Cooper's great in it. Kate Blanchett's great in it. Rooney Mara is really good in it. She's really real cute. She plays his love interest. Who else is in it? Toni Collette is in it from Hereditary and a number of other films. David Strathairn from Sneakers, the blind guy, he's in it. He plays the magician who like takes him under his wing and teaches him everything he knows. So I mean, it had some moments, but I was like, could have been a little bit less overblown there, Guillermo. Now, and that being said, movies I'm anticipating, I just found out about this one the other day, and I'm like, this sounds pretty interesting, and it's starring one of our badass women, Michelle Yeoh.
I saw the trailer for this. It looks amazing.
It's called Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's about a woman who finds out that she has to save the world and has a particular power where she can visit alternate realities and see other versions of herself and absorb like their talents and their skills and things like that. So she goes to these like multiverses to absorb the things that she's going to need to save the world in her reality. I'm like, first off, it's a cool concept because it's the multiverse. That's the thing right now. It's Michelle Yeoh, who is just amazing regardless. And it was a really good trailer. So I'm hoping it's not an instance of one of those, like the trailers just uses all the good stuff and then the movie sucks. But overall, it's pretty good.
Can I add one that I'm anticipating?
Yeah.
Megan brought to my attention in March. It's Studio 666. It's got the entire band of Foo Fighters who are trying to make their 10th album in a haunted house.
I just saw the trailer for it. Yeah, I knew that sounded familiar. Yeah, it looks pretty funny.
It looks like it's a mix of comedy and a little bit of like funny horror.
And he's already done that because he did he was the devil in Tenacious D's Pick of Destiny.
Yes.
Yeah, he's had his experience playing a demon before.
It had me thinking of this is a movie coming out by a band. And I know the Beatles have done two movies at least, right?
They did Hard Day's Night, Help.
and
Help.
Oh,
Yellow
and Yellow Submarine. So they did 3 films, yeah.
All right. And I was trying to come up with, I was like, are there other bands that have like branched out into doing movies?
Elvis.
The Bee Gees did Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band because they couldn't get the Beatles to do it, so they got the Bee Gees to do it. I don't know, like in the way that you're talking, where like the whole band is kind of in the film doing the thing. Like I've seen, there's always singers who branch out into acting.
Right. And then there are the
maybe
movies that become singers, like Spinal Tap, but.
And one of them, like I was just thinking, like the Monkees, but they were, I think,
they were a TV show
before they were the band,
right?
So I don't know. That's a good one. We have to look it up. That might be a.
We'll have to explore it.
Yeah, it might be a subject for a later episode.
Elvis.
But again, he's Elvis. He's not Elvis and the Heartbreakers. It's just Elvis.
Right.
This is the whole Foo Fighters band, I think the guitarist from Nirvana is in it too.
Oh yeah.
I think he's in it as well. So it's like it's bringing 2 bands together.
Or we could do just musicians who break into movies. We got Bowie, we got Sting, we got others that we could. Anyway, different day.
No, I know. That's a good, cool topic. And I'm interested to look into that question and see if there's other bands out there that kind of broke into films as a band.
Yep.
Mhm.
I was already
Josie and the
hyped.
Pussycats.
Yeah, Josie. No, was it Pebbles and Bam Bam when they started their own band?
Oh Lord.
I was already hyped for Doctor Strange 2. And then I found out Sam Raimi is directing it.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. And I'm like,
Nice.
so the director of Spider-Man 1 and 2, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films.
And 3. He did do 3, didn't he?
Did
Oh, no,
do
he did do 3.
He did 3 under protest.
Yes.
But like,
And we watched 3 under protest.
under protest. But Sam Raimi is back directing comic book films, this time Doctor Strange 2. And it has me excited because it makes me wonder what surprises are on the way.
Yeah.
So could Maguire and Garfield be coming back? Because
Mhm.
the multiverse of madness. Could there be the introduction of like the X-Men in this film, or the Fantastic Four, or something like that? Because we're talking about all these, universes converging on each
I
other.
really want to see if Bruce Campbell makes it into the movie.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. Sam Raimi always got to throw Bruce Campbell in there somehow. He should have Bruce Campbell come in as all the characters he played in different Spider-Man films. It would be like the Campbell verse, the CCU.
So, did Kevin? Did you watch the finale?
The Boba
Yes.
Fett.
Mhm.
Okay.
Good. It's hard to talk about. Apparently, there was an after credit scene that I didn't know about.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Mike was telling me earlier. I said, "All right, so I got something I got to watch after the show then," because I watched the
Mhm.
episode, but I didn't see the after credit stuff. I saw the very, very finale part where Grogu wanted him to hit the light speed. I thought was a very fun scene, and I'm like, so Grogu chose the Mandalorian,
He did.
and I don't understand why he could just have both, because like that meme you sent out, Mike, like
Only a Sith deals
Sith
in
deals in
absolutes.
So
He rode the Rancor. He rode it.
He rode the Rancor.
Rode the Rancor.
Yeah, I wish I'm hoping Cad Bane isn't like really dead, because he's a cool character and I'd like to see him come back again.
Yeah.
Overall though, I don't know. Like I felt like it was a lot of build up. Like they didn't do a great enough job building it up. That like you did so much with the flashbacks and other stuff. And I understand that was to kind of show the change in character for Boba Fett.
Right.
You could have done like all that backstory stuff in like one episode, and then spent more episode building up the conflict between him and the rival gangs and
And the pipe.
in the fight. Yeah, like more of the Mos Eisley stuff than or the Mos Espa, whatever it is.
I was watching the whole, turn on Boba Fett scene, and I'm thinking this is straight out of The Godfather.
Yeah.
The whole thing at the end, I was like, oh.
Because then Fennec comes in and wipes them all out in one.
Yeah.
I like
Well,
how
that was at the very end. I was thinking, all the syndicates were like, wiping out his stations one at a time.
Yeah, taking out his people. Like I like how she hangs the mayor at the end of the hammerhead guy. I was like, is that actually his neck? I guess it is. She's so badass too, man. I love McMillan. Speaking of kick-ass women. So I guess we should talk about our drinks tonight. So who wants to go first?
I'll go. Go ahead.
So tonight I am drinking from Ship Bottom Brewery, the Barnegat Lager.
Ooh.
Sounds good.
It is 6.8% alcohol by volume. It says it's a tribute to Old Barney, the most iconic landmark on Long Beach Island. Our classic German-style lager has a malty aroma with a subtle fruit flavor from the Munich malt, and it's a very crisp finish.
How is it?
Pretty good.
Have you tried that other one I got you, the Hefeweizen one?
No, not yet.
Okay. Mike likes his German beers.
You know it.
So, Kev, you made a cocktail this evening.
I did, and Megan found this for me, and I thought it was a good idea. So this is called a suffering bastard. Okay.
Awesome.
What goes into a suffering bastard? Bastard, you may ask. Well, I'll tell you. It's easy actually. It's an ounce of bourbon, an ounce of gin, an ounce of fresh lime juice, some bitters, and topped off with some ginger ale. And there's a story behind it too. The drink's genesis can be traced to the long bar at the Shepherd Hotel in Cairo. As the story goes, in the late 1940s, the Shepherd's bar steward was Joe Cialone. Anyway, one day in 1947, according to Esquire, Cialone was desperate for a hangover remedy, and the suffering bar steward, which soon became sloppily rechristened the Suffering Bastard, was the result. So, and it's delicious. It's really, really good. So,
well, it's everything I like in one drink.
Yeah.
bourbon, gin, lime
ale.
juice, bitters, ginger ale, and then when things get truly, truly depressing, I have another depressing.
You have a
beer.
depressing beer.
I have a depressing beer.
Here.
All right. I'm going to take off my broken heart background because it's blocking my drink. So you can see my drink is Windex Blue. So I was telling Mike in the pre-show before you hopped on, Kev, that I was looking up drinks and depression. And it wasn't quite bringing
They
me
recommended a couple
yeah,
phone numbers for you to call.
it wasn't quite bringing me to the websites I was hoping for. It was more like, are you having trouble? Do you need someone to talk to?
I'd be surprised if you don't get a phone call today.
Yeah, I know.
Google's already in the works of finding you
Yeah.
a therapist.
I mean, the
I'm
FBI
waiting for a knock on his door.
FBI hasn't shown up to my house yet, so I guess I'm okay. So I was like, what can I do then? Because I wanted something kind of themed. So I said, let's look for drinks that are blue. Figuring blue typically is like the color for, like, you know, sadness and depression and all that stuff. So I found an interesting one that is definitely blue. So this is, I have to look at the ingredients here, a half ounce of vodka, a half ounce of rum,
Okay.
a half ounce of tequila,
Ooh.
a half ounce of gin,
It sounds like a Long Island so far.
Yes.
a half ounce of blue curacao,
Okay.
That's feeling different.
sweet and sour mix.
Okay.
You shake it over ice, get it nice and mixed up, pour it into your iced, what do you call this thing?
Rocks glass?
Mason jar.
Oh, mason jar.
And then top it off with some 7-Up for color.
Wow.
And you get this drink here, which is called the Adios, motherfucker.
You said you've already had 2 of those before the show?
Yep.
You're not going to be
You
up
working
in the
tomorrow?
morning.
I am working tomorrow. I probably should have saved this one for next week because I'm off next Friday.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I have a special one for next week since we're going to be doing something Olympic themed. So I
Nice.
already have my drink planned out for that one. So, so let me close my
The
representation.
Jamaican bobsled?
Yes and no. Something kind of like that. You'll see. Excuse me. So yeah,
Oh, this is good. I would make this again.
this is really good too. I already had 2 of them.
Yeah, I remember the time I made my own Long Island. The next day, it hurt.
Mm.
Just wait. Leo's going to be telling us about how bad he hurt tomorrow.
I'm going to be like halfway through my drive to work and I'm going to fall asleep. I'm going to have a hangover while all these kids are running around me asking for 3D prints.
Mr. C.
Mr. Leo. All right. So our main segment this evening is all about depressing films because we thought, what better way to celebrate Valentine's Day than with a little bit of sadness?
Absolutely.
So I threw together
Should this
a
be
list.
done? Now, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I'm looking at the list and I'm thinking, if we went in reverse order, it would kind of bring us to the most depressing movies, the most depressing movie I think we've all seen.
Oh, I don't know. I got one on this list that is pretty fucked up.
All right.
Yeah.
We can start. We can start with from the beginning.
Talking to Mike about this the other night, and I got one on there that's just.
And Adrian's like, yep.
Yep. Yeah, like she actually knew what I was talking about. And I'm like, wow. So the reason Kev was talking about going reverse is because the first movie I have on my list, and this is no particular order. I didn't do rankings or brackets or anything like that. I kind of like threw films on there as they came to mind. And then I looked at some lists and I found one list that was like the top 100 most depressing films of all time. And I tried to limit it a little bit because once you get past like 30, like I have here, you start getting into some films that I never heard of and some like foreign films and things like that. So I tried to stick to things that were kind of popular. and a mix of things too. So we have war films on there, we have Holocaust films, we have love stories, we have
Slavery.
human drama, things like that. You know,
Animated.
some animated stuff on there. Yeah, there's a couple
Mhm.
musicals. So try to mix it up a little bit. So the first one on our list is, speaking of lists, Schindler's List.
No.
Oof.
Great movie. Excellent movie.
It is an excellent movie, and even though it's depressing, it's a movie that I can watch.
Yeah.
I can like rewatch occasionally because it's just such a good.
Yeah.
The acting is just so phenomenal, and
It's a
just fun to
story
watch,
I
yeah.
didn't know about until it became a movie.
Same
You
thing
know,
here,
I didn't
same
know
here,
that. Yeah, I didn't know the story of I can't think.
Oscar Schindler.
Oscar Schindler and
Yeah.
and what he did. You know, and the actors who were in the movie. I don't know if I want to say Ben Kingsley was nominated for this. Could be wrong, but
it won Oscar for Best Picture.
Yep.
It won. I think Spielberg finally won like his Oscar for Best Director for this.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson was nominated for Best Actor.
mhm.
And it was like a breakout role for him because up until then, I don't think he had done many
He
high
had done Rob Roy. He had
Rob
done,
Roy, but I don't think he
you
had done
know,
anything like really high profile like
No.
this.
No, I don't think so either.
And like I remember like the big thing he was in was he was the villain in the last Dirty Harry movie.
Oh wow.
like that was like one of his earliest roles. So award wise, this film got
John Williams was on. It was
John
nominated.
Williams was one of the composer. I think he won.
Right.
Mhm.
So it won for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay based on previously published material, Best Cinematography, Art Direction, Film, and John Williams won for Best Score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson was nominated for actor. Ray Fiennes was supporting actor. It was a breakout role for him too, because I don't think Ray Fiennes was all that well known either.
I don't think he had too much, but I know
and then,
the things I've read. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Ben Kingsley should have been nominated, I think, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The things I remember reading about this movie, this was a long time coming for Steven Spielberg. He
Mhm.
struggled through it, not because of any it was emotional struggle. It wasn't difficulty with actors. It wasn't difficulty with anything else. It was just an emotional struggle. He actually, Robin Williams had reached out to him on several occasions to lift his spirits while he was filming this.
Yeah, I heard that he would like call him every day or every couple of days and like just make him laugh.
Yeah,
just to help him through it.
exactly.
He had written a screenplay, Spielberg, and it was very personal because he is Jewish and he's had
Mhm.
ancestors who were in the concentration camps, and he wrote the screenplay, but he was trying to pass it off on somebody else to direct.
I heard that too.
Yeah, he was trying to get somebody else to direct it.
Francis Ford Coppola?
Possibly. And then I don't remember who it was, but whoever it was, like, kind of talked him into it. Like, the only person who could direct this is you.
Mhm.
This is your story. It's your personal thing. Like, you should do it. And he broke down. He did it, and it ended up being possibly one of the best films in his filmography.
Yeah, and there's so much.
It's saying a lot.
It was filmed in all in black and white.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people do from time to time to kind of bring something to it. And I know that he took that one character, the small girl in the red coat, who appears throughout the movie, and you kind of see her as the I mean, I know Oscar Schindler sees her throughout it as like the humanity of it, as she wanders around. But you follow her throughout the whole thing, and it's tragic to see what happens.
So it's like he films it in black and white because I think at first he like wanted it to feel sort of documentary style.
Mhm.
A little bit, which it kind of does in some cases. And then also, like you said, he wanted that contrast, so you would recognize the girl yourself.
Yeah.
He wanted her to be like the audience's innocence.
She was a symbol. Yeah.
She was a symbol of the innocence, and then at the end, it's the innocence lost.
Yeah. And what else did I hear? Oh, he didn't hold back anything. Not that I heard this, but he didn't hold back anything. Was filming some of the scenes. Some of the scenes are really intense in terms of what they did in the concentration camps.
It's brutal. It's in your face.
Yeah.
And it's very realistic violence, and it's not over the top. I mean, it's realistic.
Right.
It's not a feel good movie, but I think it's a movie everybody should see.
It's a movie everybody should
Yes.
see. And like I said, despite it being so depressing, it's a film I can rewatch because the acting is so phenomenal in it. It's just it's mesmerizing to see it. And I saw it in the theater when it came out. I saw it in the Ritz 5 in Center City, and I went with a buddy of mine. And I remember when the movie was over, nobody left the theater. It was just dead silence. Everybody sitting there, just kind of like taking a breath and trying to like register what you just
Compose
watched.
themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was bizarre. It's the only movie I've ever been to where that's happened, where the crowd just couldn't leave right away. Anybody so to lighten it up a little bit, you ever see the Seinfeld episode where
Yes.
he and his girlfriend, they never see the movie because they can't stop making out during it.
Yeah.
And every time they go back, they just end up making out again.
And his parents give him a hard time when somebody
they're like,
catches him.
it's you're Jewish, you should be watching this film. Like, so the next one I have on my list, speaking of World War II, is Sophie's Choice.
Oof.
This is it's a rough one.
Yeah.
It's probably not as well known nowadays. It's an early 80s. It's 1982. It's one of Meryl Streep's like really early roles. And I know she was nominated for it. I don't know if she won for it.
I thought every time she was nominated, she won.
She won. She did win for it. She won Best Actress in a Leading Role for this movie. It's the only Oscar that the film won. Which is interesting. So she was nominated for this. So Sophie's Choice, for anybody who's not seen this, is another World War II pick about a woman who is a survivor of the Nazi concentration camp. And what you find out from after a lot of struggle and all that in the film is that when she was in the camps, she had 2 children, and the Nazis made her choose which one lived and which one died. And that's her choice, Sophie's choice. And you get to see like how a woman like her can live with that afterwards. Like how do you go on? It's kind of like the gist of the theme there. She's excellent in it, of course. It's Meryl Streep. She's usually excellent in everything she does. Pretty convincing accent in the film, and really, I'm just looking at the picture on the cover right here, and it's like just her facial expressions alone are powerful. Next one I put down here is Brokeback Mountain. Now, this is not for everybody because some people have struggle with the fact that it's about 2 cowboys who are homosexuals, lovers, and in a time where that was kind of really looked down upon. It starts in, I want to say it starts in like the early 70s or something, and then spans a few decades. But it is ultimately, it's a beautiful love story if you can handle it, and it's fucking tragic, man. It's really, really tragic ending.
Sorry, guys, I need to sober up.
Yeah, you need to sober up. Time to drink some water.
Nope.
Some Miller Lite water. So especially when you think the end is all they ever had was the weekends they would spend at this location called Brokeback Mountain.
They lived their lives in secret, really.
Really.
They did this job had sporadically. It wasn't a continual thing, and
it was like every winter or something like that. I think they had to do it.
And they moved on with their lives. They each found wives. They each started families, but they still had this life together. It wasn't like it didn't seem like it was just sex. It seemed like true, a relationship.
I know everybody
going to be accepted.
Everybody makes a joke about the one scene where Gyllenhaal says to Heath Ledger,
why can't I quit you?
Why can't I quit you? Or I wish I knew how to quit you, or something like that. And they make a joke of it, but it is it does really show like how they fell for each other.
Yeah.
But the thing that breaks it for me is after Gyllenhaal's character gets killed later on, Heath Ledger goes to Gyllenhaal's parents' house, and he takes a shirt from the closet that belonged to him that has like his scent on it and all that. And at the very, very end of the film, he's living alone in his trailer, and he's there's just him by himself. He's made amends with his daughter, who he's been estranged from for a while. And he opens up the closet, and there's the picture of Brokeback Mountain, and there's the shirt hanging underneath it. And he picks it up and he hugs it, and he goes, and I think his last lines are someday. Like, I'll see you again someday, kind of thing. And it's sad because he finally
the death scene of Jake Gyllenhaal was kind of gruesome too.
It's brutal,
and it's crazy. You're reading the letter, and the letter is nothing like what actually happened.
It's he calls. Anne Hathaway plays Gyllenhaal's wife, and he calls her up to speak to him, and she tells him that he got killed when he was changing a tire, and the tire exploded or something, and the metal hit him in the face and killed him instantly.
Yeah.
But then, as she's telling him the story, you're seeing flashes of what actually happened, and it's a group of cowboys lynching him because they found out he was gay.
Yeah.
And they just beat the fuck out of him. and they don't hold back in it either. It's a pretty brutal scene.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I reckon it's a movie I recommend to people to see. It is a really heartfult movie. Next on the list I threw on there was Romeo and Juliet, and Mike asked me the other day what version, and I said yes.
All of them.
All of them. I mean,
the ending hasn't changed, has it?
The ending hasn't changed, and it's. I would say it's probably the model for all, romantic tragedies to come, because it's Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm. Only a death count of 4, though.
Oh, only 4?
I like it's a Greek tragedy, though.
Romeo and Juliet are part of that 4.
Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
But it does. I mean, it's.
Don't get connected to the characters, Lou.
Yeah.
It's like Game of Thrones. Don't get connected to the characters.
Now, I put it on there because I felt like it was an injustice not to. But I would say of all Shakespeare's plays, it is my least favorite. A, because I think it's just his simplest play, and B, because I taught it so many fucking times that I just can't take it.
You're oversaturated with it.
I'm oversaturated with it, and I just can't help thinking to myself, they're teenagers. They don't know how to make good decisions.
True.
And that's it. Like if they had, social media, it would have been a different story. Then they could have just slipped into each other's DMs. And next one on the list is, and it's funny, it's like there's no way for any of these movies on this list to really lift our spirits. It's just going to keep getting worse. The next one is The Lovely Bones.
The Lovely Bones.
The Lovely
Bones.
Man, that was tough.
Yeah, this is one of Saoirse Ronan's first films.
Look, I'll say this about the movie: it was well filmed.
Yes.
The heavenly scenes are majestic. Stanley Tucci's transformation is creepy as hell.
And that's the thing too, like you have to be a really good filmmaker to make Stanley Tucci look like a monster.
Yeah.
Stanley Tucci's like the happy-go-lucky guy in like every friggin' movie I see him in.
Yeah. And I'll even give it to Mark Wahlberg. He pulled it off.
He pulled it off.
Not Oscar worthy, but it was a good portrayal.
But you know what it is too, is you have like the cast around him is so strong too that it can make up for his weaknesses. I mean, you got Rachel Weisz, Saoirse Ronan, Susan Sarandon, Stanley Tucci. You got Mike Imperioli from The Sopranos is in it. So I mean, like that kind of helps a little bit.
It sounds like Hollywood actors like to make sad, depressing movies because they're all in these things.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, at some point or another, and also you got to think like
this is also Oscar bait.
Yeah, these are kind of movies. Like if any movie can be considered Oscar bait, it's a movie like this. And actors will often take roles like that because they want to get that nomination at some point. I mean, Wahlberg has a nomination for The Departed. Speaking of depressing films, but it was kind of like he got nominated for playing himself.
Can you play a boy from Boston with an attitude? Yeah. I did read a couple things about The Lovely Bones. I know it was a book first and hadn't read the book, but I did hear that the author of the book was kind of pushing for an ending towards, I mean, it's been out for a while now, so an ending to Stanley Tucci that was more reflective of what the book had. but that was a much more gruesome ending. And the push was, well, he's a pedophile murderer. That should be just, I mean, whatever happens should be. And they just couldn't. I just don't think the actor, or the director could do it. So
yeah. I also had read somewhere that like Wahlberg wasn't the first choice either.
mm,
I think it was. Oh, you know what it was? I know the story. I remember it now. It was Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling was originally slated to play the role and decided he was going to gain a little bit of weight to play it because he wanted to play this, this like regular everyday guy, this father of this little girl and all that. So
right.
he went out and gained the weight, and they decided they didn't want him anymore, and they hired Wahlberg. So,
Oopsie.
that's what you get for trying to be a method actor there, Ryan. Next one on this list is one that was heavily nominated a couple years ago, Marriage Story, which stars Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson, Laura Dern, and Laura Dern won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for this film. But it's the dynamic between Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson that drives the picture. And it's the director, Noah Baumbach, wrote this film based on his own divorce. So
his own divorce from Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yeah, so so Adam Driver's kind of like his avatar in the film. And it's a really amazingly acted film. But again, if you're not somebody who likes films about brutal divorces,
yeah,
it's not a film for you. But it is a very well acted film, very well written, and just the scenes just between Driver and Johansson alone are just worth the price of admission.
Yeah. I wanted to check this out because I thought I had read it earlier, and it was true. I believe the fight scene in the apartment, it was done. I mean, there were multiple takes, but it was one shot. It was all done in one take. They couldn't pick it up somewhere in the middle. So every time that they had to do that fight scene, every time that they had to redo the take, they had to start from the beginning.
Oh yeah,
which I would think would be emotionally exhausting. Even if you are acting, I would think that to be still emotionally exhausting.
I had to think at the end of the day, it's going to be draining. There's that great scene. I think it's the scene you're talking about. It's where Adam Driver's like yelling at her, and he tells her, the thing I hate most about myself is that I wake up every day and wish that you were dead.
Yeah.
And it's like,
my God,
brutal. And he's like, and I would hope it happened if I would know that our son would be okay. Like, it's like this crazy kind of things that people would say to each other when you're angry like that. And then he like immediately apologizes afterwards. And it's just, it's a roller coaster. That's not your typical, film about divorce and all that.
Somebody had said it when you're breaking up with somebody, when you're going through that, your goal is just to hurt them. And it's horrible to think of it that way. Who would want to intentionally hurt somebody?
I know. That's why
especially somebody who you love for so long, and so much.
So that's why I always told Katie, I'll never divorce her. I'll kill her first. It's cheaper. Speaking of that. Dead Poet Society. Now, Dead Poet Society is one that it's not sad until you get to the end. Like up until that ending, few ending scenes. It's an inspirational film. It's a feel-good movie.
Yep.
It's a great Robin Williams performance.
Yeah, you see this devoted teacher, this alternative teacher, especially for the hoity-toity schools,
And honestly, when you think about it, he is actually more like a side character. It's the movie's about the kids, about the students. But his performance is so powerful that he, you think he's the lead, but really he's not in it as much as the kids are. And it's his influence on them that causes one of them to kind of act out and do his own thing.
Against his parents,
his father's wishes. And it's the father who's played by Red Foreman from That 70s Show, Kurtwood Smith, who is just an asshole. And of course, after everything that happens at the end, they blame the teacher, of course.
Yeah. There's
Captain, my captain.
Oh, Captain, my captain. I used to try to get my kids to call me that. They wouldn't do it.
One of one thing, I mean, Robin Williams, I loved Robin Williams. He great actor, but he definitely had his shtick that he did from film to film. This was not one of those movies. He kind of took a break from the typical, over the top. I mean, he was still passionate, but it was not like
when
over the top.
when he has to act seriously, he can do it.
Yeah.
The first one that comes to mind to me is my favorite Robin Williams film, which is Good Morning Vietnam, where he spends 75% of that movie being the Robin Williams and then the restaurant blows up, and all of a sudden it's a drama, and he's a completely different character.
Yeah,
and that's the first time you see him like sort of like the dramatic character he can be. And
yeah,
he does this. So like a span of like
he did Awakenings.
Oh yeah, in a span of like 6 years, he did Good Morning Vietnam, Dead Poet Society, Awakenings, The Fisher King. A few years after that, he did Good Will Hunting. So he had like this whole stretch of like really dramatic films, and then won the Oscar for Good Will Hunting. Inside Out, the Pixar film.
Oh, I love this movie.
It's a great movie. I love the whole concept of like the emotions in her head who control her and all that.
Yeah, I like that the comedy's peppered in.
Yeah, I like when they cut away to like other people, and you see all like the different voices in their head and how they like.
Stuff. Yeah.
But the reason
that's funny. Go ahead.
No, the reason I threw it on here because I feel like for a Pixar movie, for an animated film, it's one of the most accurate portrayals of like childhood depression that I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it is, and the whole thing centers around sadness. I mean, literally the character of sadness and how sadness needs to be accepted, not covered up, not pushed aside. Right. The whole basis of the movie is like sadness exists, and it creates memories, core memories that help you develop, help you become who you are, and you have to be able to deal with that. And I think right now there are kids who can't.
And I like how like when you cut to like the reality portion of it, her with her family.
Yeah.
How helpless the parents are too. Like they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They don't know how to help her. And it's that's the way it is. And it's just covered up by that colorful, cartoonish segment of the emotions in her head, because you got to kind of make it somehow family friendly.
I heard the quote from it recently only because the other day was National Pizza Day, and they played a clip from the movie.
Was it the broccoli pizza?
Yeah. Who does the voice of anger? That's Black. So,
it's Lewis Black.
Yeah. Lewis Black, and he goes, "Broccoli on pizza? What is this? First it was the Hawaiians. Now it's you, San Diego."
So it's funny you mentioned that. I saw something on Facebook earlier because it was National Pizza Day the other day. They did a thing where they like surveyed the country to find out what is the favorite topping in each state. So like the most popular.
I saw this. This is depressing.
Like, a couple states had pineapple, whatever. California was avocado.
Yeah.
And then like you had pepperoni was number one mostly. Sausage was number one most places.
Did you see what Pennsylvania was?
Yeah, you get the Pennsylvania, and it's corn.
Corn.
Where the fuck do they put corn on pizza in Pennsylvania? It's not in Philadelphia.
Oh, hell no.
It is definitely not in Philadelphia. You would have an Italian riot. Like,
what the fuck is this?
This is why Philadelphia is not really part of Pennsylvania. Philadelphia is like its own state.
Yes.
It's like Philadelphia and the rest of those fucking hicks. Like, who the hell puts corn on fucking pizza?
The Amish.
I can't even imagine. Like what that would taste like.
I don't think it's in Pittsburgh either.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, they put axle grease on their pizza. I
coal dust.
Jesus, like I'd rather eat pizza with pineapple, which is itself a travesty, than pizza with corn.
I'd agree.
Or corned beef.
Yeah.
Corned beef.
Corned beef drinking motherfuckers.
You put that shit.
It's got to be like out in like Scranton and Allegheny or some shit. Like where the hell are they eating corn? Like, corn on pizza. And that wasn't the only state either. There was like 2 other states that had corn as their number one.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And I'm like, where the hell did this come from?
Native Americans.
Getting back to Inside Out. The scene where Bing Bong disappeared.
Oh man, that breaks your heart.
Breaks my heart because I'm like, I remember like growing up and you have your imaginary friends. And
Your
all that.
imaginary
Like,
friend. Yeah.
so next on my list, I have a twofer here for, as far as like depressing films about slavery. The Color Purple first.
Mm-hmm.
Color Purple, oddly enough, is a Spielberg film.
Yeah.
It's
It
not
was
one-
an introduction to Oprah Winfrey too. You know,
and Whoopi Goldberg.
mm-hmm.
Whoopi Goldberg, it's one of her first films. Oprah Winfrey was nominated for an Oscar for
Yeah.
it.
Danny Glover was in it.
Yeah, people forget like Oprah started as an actress.
Mm-hmm.
So it was up for Best Picture, Best Actress for Whoopi Goldberg, Best Supporting Actress for Margaret Avery, for Oprah Winfrey, Best Writing, Cinematography, etc. It didn't win anything. It was just all nominations. But it's an odd one when you think that it's like part of Spielberg's, repertoire, because it doesn't really seem like a Spielberg type film.
No,
Well, you know what? That was Spielberg before he got not pushed into, but took on action and sci-fi. I think this came around, but then he was doing Indiana Jones. He was doing Jurassic Park. He got wrapped up in doing more science fiction, wrapped up and stuff like that. But when he does historical movies, when he did Lincoln, when he did Saving Private Ryan, he does an excellent job with it.
Yeah, and I think this was probably like it was his first attempt, I think, at doing something serious and not sci-fi or action adventure related or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have next on that is 12 Years a Slave. Yeah, like it hurts to watch.
Yeah.
Like there's some films on this list where I'm like, yeah, it hurts to watch. And you think about this poor guy played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, who's a free man who gets abducted and sold back into slavery.
Yeah.
And then you got Michael Fassbender and Brad Pitt in this film playing like really against type.
Yeah.
Especially Michael Fassbender. He's a fucker in this film. I mean, it's a very well acted, and it was the film debut for Lupita Nyong'o, and she won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for it. So she won an Oscar for her first film.
Oh, wow.
And then she would go on to voice Maz Kanata in the Star Wars films, and star in the film Us from Jordan Peele. And she is a gorgeous woman, beautiful, so beautiful, and an amazing role. And like to think that that's her first film,
Yeah.
And then she was in the Black Panther too. I forgot she was in that film. She kind of gets left out in the other Avengers films.
Right.
So then to swerve it a little bit, we'll go back
before we move on.
Yeah.
I need to get another beer.
Okay. I'm gonna pause
5.
it.
Sorry, I had to get a more happier beer. Lift my spirits.
So everybody, thank you for joining us here on Films and Fermentation for the special Valentine's Day episode, Most Depressing Films Ever. We took a quick break so we all get some refills, and considering the amount of alcohol that was in the drink that I had, and that I had 3 of them, I decided it was probably best to kind of switch it up a little bit. So I went with something light and friendly. So I'm drinking a Mackenzie's Black Cherry hard cider.
Gesundheit, whoever that was.
Only 5%. Yeah, it's only 5% alcohol by volume, so it's only 5% on top of the 95% I already drank.
And
I'm double fisting.
I lightened my spirits up with a
Kona longboard.
Kona longboard. Think about Hawaii.
I recognize that bottle. And Kevin is double fisting his what is it called? Sorry bastard.
Gesundheit.
No, she's sneezing up a storm. It's called a suffering bastard.
Suffering bastard.
Suffering bastard.
And a sad Bud Light.
Yeah.
My college days.
Yeah.
If Leo would have had another one of his mixed drinks tomorrow, he would be the suffering bastard.
I'm probably gonna be a suffering bastard anyway. Like I like that meme you sent me from the Star Wars thing where it's Obi-Wan and Anakin And he's like, "Hey, Anakin, fuck, marry, kill." And Anakin goes, "Padme." So we were talking about depressing films, so let's get back to the list so we can burn through this because
Oh, you mean Anakin killing younglings? Is it depressing enough?
that's pretty depressing. I'm gonna burn through the list because I got some chicken nuggets waiting for me. Next on the list, I got Toy Story 3, which essentially is not really all that depressing, but does have some pretty,
Intense.
intense
The end.
moments.
The ending is saddening.
Depressing.
I mean,
It's sad ending.
right? It's not the worst ending, but it's definitely
It's the
moving
end of the
on
se-
from
it's the
child.
end of
It's
the
the end
series.
of childhood.
I would
Yes.
say it's bittersweet because it's like
Yeah.
he's given up the toys, but at least they're going
Mhm.
to a child who will still appreciate him.
Yeah.
The scene that always gets me though is the one where they're going into the fire
Mm.
and they just like give up and hold each other's hands, and it's like, what? This
Yeah.
can't be it.
Oh, and at
And
the
then
end
they get
where,
saved by Vecla.
and at the end where Woody pretty much rides off in the sunset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Katie and I saw it in the theater, and I was crying just as much as the little girl at the end of the aisle from me.
You do know what really does irritate me about that movie though is Andy trusted that little girl with his toys, and she lost Woody.
Well, you're talking about Toy Story 4 now. So.
Oh, that's 4, yeah. I went too far.
Next one I have on the list is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. This is one of Jim Carrey's early attempts at dramatic films. And it starred Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. And
Had a handful of hits with drama.
Yeah, and it's a really good movie. It's an interesting concept. It's kind of science fiction, but it's interesting because it's like it shows how futile love can be sometimes. So you have these two people who are in love and their relationship goes awry. So they see this doctor who can remove their memories, and they ask them to remove the memory of each other. But then even though they forget about each other, they still end up back together again. And it becomes this like constant loop of them just, getting rid of the memories and then finding each other again somehow. And how like just futile it is that like, they're meant for each other, but at the same time wrong for each other. So it's an interesting film. If you like something that's kind of outside the box.
Is it like serendipitous or fate? Or I mean,
It's kind of like it's kind of like saying like it's fate that they meet, but it's also fate that it doesn't work out. But they're stuck in this like loop where they meet, they break up, they forget about each other, and then meet again. So it's like
the moral is
like they're supposed to be in each other's lives, but
but it doesn't really work out.
You're going to be miserable for the rest of your life.
Yeah, moral of the story. Next one I have on here is Steel Magnolias.
Oh no! Oh man, this is depressing. It was one of my mother's favorite movies. Watched it constantly.
You think constantly? Try living down south. It was on everybody's television all the time.
It's like a Southern anthem.
It's a good. I mean, look, it's definite chick flick. Sorry, but it is. And it's women who need to bond together because their significant others or just don't care.
Except for Julia Roberts' significant other, who's really, really caring, and of course, he's the one whose wife dies on him.
Yeah.
I think it was Julia Roberts, one of her first films. I think she did Mystic Pizza first, and
I think it's like Southern Golden Girls, isn't it?
It's kind of like Southern Golden Girls because it's Shirley MacLaine.
It's Olympia Dukakis, Dolly Parton,
Sally Field.
Sally Field.
Yeah, so it is kind of like Southern Golden Girls. Here's fun. It's one of the few, if you want to call it a chick flick, it's one of the few chick flicks like I can tolerate. Like I can watch it. I think it's well acted.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it's like I saw it when I was young because it came out, I think when I was in high school or something, and I kind of saw it around that time, and I'm like, I find it odd that I actually kind of enjoy this film. It wasn't really the kind of movie I would watch like at the time, but and it's one of those ones where it's like it kind of builds up to the depressing moment.
Yeah.
Which is Julia Roberts' character.
Unlike the next one,
which is the first 15 minutes of Up.
And I don't think, is there any dialogue in the first 15?
No,
I mean,
it's
aside
No.
from they
all
meet, they meet in as kids, and there's that interaction with them as kids. But
Yeah.
beyond that point,
It's-
it's all
It's all
pictorial.
her. It's all her. When they meet as kids, it's like she's the one doing all the talking.
True.
Right.
I think he maybe says like a couple words, but then it's like from there, it's like when they become a couple, and then it's the montage of their entire life. And it's, God damn it, man. Like from them constantly trying to save money and then never be able to save enough and then having to use it for everything else. And it's like, God, that's so relatable. And then they go to the doctors because she has the miscarriage.
She's unable,
And
right? She's unable to
and it's like,
conceive.
this is a Disney film? Like, what the hell is going on here? You know, and then the whole thing with her, like, you know, at the end, like it's the funeral, he's got the balloons because that's what he did for a living, and it's like, God damn it, fuck you, Pixar. They
But
find a way to do that in a lot of their films.
But then, squirrel.
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 But that's the thing, like you had this first 15 minutes which are so emotionally powerful, and then the rest of the film is just this bizarre fantasy that kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere. And I mean, I understand where they're going with it, but like, come on.
You really want to talk about a Pixar film that's depressing?
Mm-hmm.
Wall-E.
Wall-E, yeah.
People are fat, can't move.
Well, that's kind of my life story.
I mean, yeah, but you can walk. They can't even walk. You know, they destroyed the planet. They're living on a ship. It's just sad.
But
Not
Wally
sad
is
as-
so adorable.
Yeah, it's sad
And
because he's
Eve.
alone for so long. You know?
Yeah.
Eva. But Pixar
Eva.
finds a way to do that with all their films. So, like Toy Story with that whole thing we just talked about.
Yeah.
Up, the first 15 minutes of Up. Even The Incredibles has like a moment where like where he thinks his family is killed.
Yep.
And he's like broken at that point, and he's like, you know, even when you have nothing left, you know, it's like, it's so like Pixar, that's just like their thing. At some point or another, they got to throw a few minutes up there that fucks you up.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the peak of optimism in this episode, because everything from here on down.
Oh, it gets worse.
It's a steep drop.
Yeah, let's start the drop now and just kind of get it over with. The roller coaster ride that begins with number 15 on the list, A Boy in His Striped Pajamas. Holy
my
shit.
God.
This is one they used to watch. This is when you show people in school, and it's like, why are you showing this to children?
It's a Holocaust movie involving children. Wait, what?
No, it's a Holocaust movie involving children in which one of them is a German kid who doesn't understand what the Holocaust is and sneaks into a concentration camp to be with his Jewish friend and then ends up in a fucking gas chamber.
Oh.
Like, come on, man. It's, oh, God damn it. Fuck that movie. And I don't know why it's like one of those movies they show in school, man. It's like they show in school all the time. So speaking of that, Life is Beautiful.
Really?
Another
Another-
concentration camp film.
Yeah.
This one is an Italian film. I remember when the guy won the Oscar for this. What the hell was his name? I gotta look it up.
Oh yeah.
Life is Beautiful. Roberto Benigni.
Yes.
So Roberto Benigni stars as a Jewish father. He and his son are abducted and thrown into a concentration camp, and he tries to hide the horror of the camps from his kid by making it seem like it's a game. And he develops this like whole elaborate like point system and stuff just to kind of keep it from like, you know, damaging the kid and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And then Roberto Benigni wins the Oscar for this, or Best Actor, and he's one of the few like foreign actors to win a Best Oscar. And he gets up and he gives a speech. First, he walks over the top of the chairs through the crowd, like over people's heads, to get up to the stage because he was a comedic actor in Italy, so this is like one of his first dramatic roles. And he gets on the stage, he gets his award, and he goes, "I am so happy. I want to make love to everybody." And I'm like, yeah, he's Italian. Roberto Benigni.
I don't think we could find a feel-good World War II movie. I mean, unless it's
To Be or Not to
intentionally
Be by Mel Brooks.
true, but
Even
even
that
that,
had some
even that
some
had
some
times,
shit in it.
you know.
Springtime for Hitler.
Hitler. And Germany.
Next one I got on the list here is Manchester by the Sea.
Never saw it.
Never
No,
saw
never
it.
saw that one.
It's hard to watch. It's one of those ones where it's kind of like you watch it one time and you're good. You never really have to watch it again.
Okay.
So it stars Casey Affleck. He won the Oscar for Best Actor for it. He's a depressed uncle taking care of his teenage nephew. So the nephew's parents are both dead, and he's a teenager, so he needs to live with somebody. So he's stuck with Casey Affleck, who's not really capable of raising anybody because he himself is depressed because his own family had died years before, his wife and kids. It's just like everybody's dead in this film. And then he's like super depressed. He's trying to help this kid, but he's like, they butt heads all the time because of what's going on in their own lives. There's a real crazy scene in this where he's come to his wit's end and he decides he wants to commit suicide, Casey Affleck, and he goes to a police station, waits till the cop isn't looking, pulls the gun out of the cop's holster and tries to shoot himself in the police station. But everybody like tackles him. And it's like it's one of those movies where like the acting is powerful, the story is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to watch it again after you watch it the one time. It's not
It's like
one where it's not one where you're sitting down and I'm like, I need something to listen to in the background. I know, Manchester by the Sea.
It's like Mystic River. You're not going to catch anything the second time around.
No, and I don't even think I have that on the list, but it probably should be on the list. I don't have it on the list, but Manchester by the Sea is up there with Mystic River as far as family dramas like that. Next one I have on the list is Les Miserables.
It's a feel-good movie. There's a lot of singing. People only sing when they're happy.
You got the master of the house in that movie.
That's right.
Really?
But when
people
you translate
don't sing unless they're happy.
Yeah, when you translate it into English, though, the title of the play is The Miserable.
Oh.
So you do know that it does have some pretty miserable moments. Even the ending, which is kind of like bittersweet, happy, like Valjean passes away, but he's finally forgiven for all of his sins, and he goes to heaven with Fantine, but the daughter and son who just got married are watching it, and it's like a mix of emotions.
Yeah.
Right. But again, it's a great.
You see all the people who died in the revolution.
Yeah, it gets a bad rap sometimes, the film version, but I actually thought it was pretty good.
I thought it was done well.
Again, it wasn't Russell Crowe's fault.
No, it wasn't Russell Crowe's fault. To take a turn from that though, Bambi. Now I should throw on this probably like with Up, it's like the first 15 minutes.
It's the first 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
You know what I mean? It's the death of Bambi's mother.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the whole thing with Thumper and Flower, and honestly, I forget the movie. I remember him meeting Thumper, Flower, and then the mom getting killed.
I remember Bambi meets Godzilla more than I remember Bambi. Have you ever seen Bambi meets Godzilla?
No,
not.
It's a really poorly drawn fan film thing from back in the 80s. It was like this thing that went around on VHS tapes, and you had to kind of find it.
I was going to say this isn't sanctioned by Japan.
No, it wasn't sanctioned. It was somebody did this really crude animation where Bambi's just sitting in the field and Bambi's leaning down and Bambi's eating the grass and he's just minding his own business, and then out of nowhere Godzilla's foot comes down and squashes him.
Oh God.
And that's the whole film. West Side Story. I kind of feel like we talked about this already, since West Side Story.
It can't be sad. There's singing involved.
Yes, but it is an adaptation of
Romeo and Juliet.
So I feel like we did kind of talk about this one a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But it does also talk about the inequalities of races in the city and poverty and how that affects, different groups. And that's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Like Forrest Gump, and that's all I got to say about that. All right.
Oh my God.
Can you guys see my? Hold on, I'm going to share my screen real quick. We're going to take a little intermission from the sadness, so we can kind of have something to kind of laugh at here. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Here is Bambi versus Godzilla. Bambi meets Godzilla. I'm sorry. So I'm looking at this, and all I can think of right now is I'm thinking of Marissa Tomei and My Cousin Vinny. You're a
With
little
that Marv
deer.
Newland.
You're a little deer, and you're sitting there, and you're taking a drink from the brook.
The Hulk.
Damn, some
The Hulk.
motherfucker blows your brains out. All right, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit because this is it's like a minute of him like eating grass. It's basically
Okay.
after the credits are over, that's when the action happens.
I bet you somebody did this during their geometry class.
We
You
gratefully
know?
acknowledge the city of Tokyo.
1969.
1969 that was made, yeah. That
Good
is,
Lord.
and that right there is the whole video.
My Lord.
So after that old little intermission there, Old Yeller.
Probably
I
the
remember.
first depressing movie I ever watched.
I think this is one I
And I
distinctly
cried when
remember
Old Yeller died.
crying my eyes out, going to my mother, who's laughing at me for crying my eyes out, saying to her, "Why did they have to kill the dog? He was just doing his job. He was a good dog." And
that's the
she's
thing, it's
laughing.
like-
She's on the phone with her friend saying, "I'm sorry. I really have to go. This is hysterical. I need to calm my son down."
Oh,
I mean,
he
it's
didn't have
kind of the
rabies.
thing. It's like, because it's a dog, like, it's always sad with the dogs.
Yeah.
That's why I
Yeah.
didn't put Marley and Me on this list because I
Oh
thought
my God. I
thought
mean,
old-
no, actually that for the most part, that was good.
But then at the end, so it's like I kind of
Yeah.
I figured one dog being put down story is enough.
Yeah, and you got to go with like the original with Old Yeller.
Yeah.
Boy,
With Russell, Kurt Russell, wasn't he in?
Was Kurt Russell?
I
in
don't
the
think
other?
he was.
No, that wasn't him.
I know because he was the Fox and the Hound. Old Yeller.
Wasn't he the go-to Disney boy?
He was, but I don't know. This might have been before him because Old Yeller was 1957.
Yeah.
The boy was played by Tommy Kirk.
I typed in Old Teller.
That's right. I was typing in Old Yeller and 40-year-old virgin came up for some reason.
I got Old Teller. A
Old
sad
Yeller.
story of a bank employee.
Who's unhappy with his job. Philadelphia, number 22.
Oof.
Now this one, it's weird because it probably could have used a different title because it's not necessarily that the film is about Philadelphia.
No.
It just
It's
happens
set
to
in
take
Philadelphia.
place there.
Yep.
I just don't know if they could have come up with a better title for it, given its content and for the time that it was made.
AIDS.
AIDS, yeah, and somebody dying from it, and it is depressing. It's
very depressing.
one of Tom Hanks's first dramatic roles. He won the Oscar for it.
Yeah.
This is another one I remember seeing in the theater and being blown away by that scene where he's listening to the opera and
Yeah.
and conveying his emotions and all. And you talk about an Oscar bait scene. That's your Oscar bait scene right there.
Yeah.
It always
And
gets
then-
me at the end when he's in the hospital bed, like the brothers are saying goodbye to him, and the one brother breaks down, and
Mhm.
it always gets me.
Yeah.
One of Denzel's early roles too,
It's
wasn't it?
one of Denzel's early roles, yeah, and a supporting role for him, not even like a front line. And it's actually Antonio Banderas' first American film. He plays Tom Hanks's boyfriend.
Right.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, it's great. It has a great soundtrack too.
Yeah. There were a
Yeah.
lot of songs that came out of that. Obviously the Boss doing Philadelphia.
And then there was Streets
Neil
of
Young.
Philadelphia from Neil Young.
Yeah.
Can't find them on Spotify anymore though.
I was looking for that earlier just to get in the mood.
So I
I've
guess
been
you could
seeing
use
some-
those for the
I've been seeing so many Spotify memes now with people just throwing out those fictional bands the Banana Splits are no longer going to have their music on Spotify.
Milli Vanilli is
Milli
taking
Vanilli
somebody
is taking somebody else's music off. My favorite one is the guy that Eddie Murphy plays in Coming to America. I can't think of the guy's name, but it's Sexual Chocolate is the name of the band. Sexual Chocolate is taking their music off of Spotify.
Spotify.
All right, back to some depressing films. $1 Million Baby. Not a depressing film until she falls on that fucking bench or whatever it is that breaks her neck.
True. Yeah. And then her manager she asked her manager to kill her.
Yeah, basically.
Right, because she's pretty much just paralyzed from the head down.
Yeah, and it's like it goes from like hopeful and cool and wonderful and well acted to depressing and downtrodden, but still well acted.
Yeah,
that's the second one from Clint Eastwood. He directed that, didn't he?
He directed it. He starred in it. Hilary Swank was the $1 Million Baby.
Yep.
And he also did Mystic River.
Yeah, Morgan Freeman was in it as well. It's actually the movie that finally got Morgan Freeman his Oscar. He was supporting actor for it, and Hilary Swank won Best Actress for it. And I think it won Best Picture, I want to say. All right, the one that's next on this list is the one that Adrian and I were talking about the other night, how this is, you see this film one time, you never have to see it again because it will fucking haunt you for the rest of your life.
Just listening to you and Adrian talk about it, I don't need to see it.
The movie is called Requiem for a Dream. It stars Jared Leto, Ellen Burstyn, Jennifer Connelly, Marlon Wayans are the four main characters in it. And it's basically, each of them has their own story in it. It's a 4-part story. They're all drug addicts. And each of their stories shows like the different effects of drugs on their lives. It's like Ellen Burstyn's character ends up in an insane asylum and is put on electric shock therapy to try to get her off their addictions. Jared Leto's character, his heroin wounds become infected. His arm has to be like removed. Jennifer Connelly ends up becoming a prostitute in order to afford her drug habit. And it's just like one terrible thing after another, with just filled with like nothing but terrible images. Directed by Darren Aronofsky, who does a lot of films like this. Like,
remember, really, kids, don't do drugs.
Really depressing films. Like, don't do drugs. It should be the movie they show people who are on drugs. Like, cause this is, it's as brutal can be, and it is the definition of, if you've seen it, you never have to watch it again. Because
you see it in your nightmares.
I've seen it, so like if I think about the film, I can picture all these scenes that are just like fucking disturbing because I've seen it and I'm like, I saw it one time and it's just burned in my memory. So let's go to something better. Green Mile.
Oh, wonderfully acted.
Wonderfully acted.
Tom Hanks again. Tom Hanks. Pulling it off.
Michael Clark Duncan.
Yep.
Who's phenomenal in it.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It's based on a Stephen King story. And I remember when it came out, I had read the book when it came out because he had published it as a serial novel. So he would have it was a 7-chapter book, but each chapter came out a month. So you had chapter 1, and then a month later, chapter 2 came out, and then a month later, chapter 3 came out. Right. And I remember the first time, like I read it when it was a serial novel, and I'm like, it's a cool concept, but man, it's fucking killing me. Because it wasn't like the chapters were all that long. Like you could bang it out in a weekend, and then you got to wait a month for the next chapter to come out. And
it's like when they dropped the Mandalorian once a week.
And then eventually, like they published it as a full novel. But yeah, the novel was amazing. It was great. It was one of Stephen King's best books, probably up there with like Shawshank. And then just translated into a really, really good film. And even though Tom Hanks,
you feel so sad for Michael Clark Duncan at the end of it. He's the gentle giant, and from the get-go, you know that this guy's like innocent. You know?
Oh yeah. It's even more explicit in the book, like how innocent he is, and how he was just like wrong place at the wrong time, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, like even though it's like a Tom Hanks film, it's really anchored by Michael Clark Duncan's performance.
Oh yeah. Really is.
Yeah, R.I.P. Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah.
Angela's Ashes. This is I read the book first. The book it was like a New York Times #1 seller for like 87 years. Like it was one of those books that was just like a phenomenon. And then it was turned into a film. I don't think the film is great, but it is a story that's pretty depressing. So it's the autobiography of Frank McCourt, who was an Irish expatriate, moved to America. And it's the story of his family when he's a young boy and how his family is constantly trying to fight the odds of poverty during their time in Limerick, Ireland, pre World War II. And so it's like the film is it's basically about the family just trying to find their way out of poverty any way they can. And he doesn't really get out of it himself until he moves to America and becomes an author. His family is constantly like struggling in the film, and it's depressing mainly because it's a true story. It's the author's autobiography. I would recommend it though. Like I actually probably would recommend the book though more than the film. The Outsiders.
Stay golden, Pony Boy.
I love The Outsiders.
Yeah,
but it's a depressing movie.
Ultimately, it's a depressing movie. It's a depressing book. It's it's teens who never really have a chance because of the situation that they're born into and the tragedy that befalls them.
Right.
It wouldn't be Valentine's Day if I did throw a Valentine's Day movie in there, so I have Blue Valentine. Stars Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams, and it's a movie that is told out of chronological order. So it's about a couple who fall in love and get trapped by alcoholism and how it affects their relationship. But it shows you like the end of the relationship and then jumps to the front of the relationship and then jumps here. And so you're seeing it in all different stages, but out of order. And ultimately just how, defeated they are at the end. And for you, Kev, I threw this one on there. The Field.
The Field.
I don't know. I've never seen the movie. I don't know if it's really depressing or not. I just feel like
that death scene is very depressing.
That death scene is depressing because there's no reason you should be drawn off the cliff by fucking sheep.
Sheep will have their revenge.
I kind of threw that on there just for Kev. The actual final one on our list, and there are plenty more out there. And if you're listening, please, write in with some suggestions that we missed. I'll throw them in the show notes for next episode. But the one I want to end with tonight is The Deer Hunter. Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken,
John Voight.
John Voight is in it. No, he's in The Deer. He's in
Deliverance. My bad.
Deliverance. Yeah. So it's John Cazale, who played Fredo in The Godfather. He's in it.
Yep.
Meryl Streep is in it. It's about a group of men who get sent to Vietnam. They get captured by the Viet Cong. They're forced to play Russian roulette. They manage to, escape and make it back home, except for Christopher Walken, who becomes a POW. And when De Niro returns to Vietnam and finds him, he's his brother. He goes back to Vietnam to try to find him. He's been so brainwashed by his years there that he is now nothing but like a robot who does nothing but play Russian roulette all the time.
Oh, wow.
Eventually, the Russian roulette catches up to him and he ends up killing himself. It is a movie about a group of men who are broken by war. And the reason it's called A Deer Hunter is because I think they grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And, they would hunt deer on the weekends and stuff. And then when they come back from Vietnam, there's a scene with De Niro where he's sitting on a hill and he's got his gun and he sees the deer in the distance and he's getting ready to shoot it. And then ultimately decides not to because he just can't do it anymore. It actually like broke his will to hunt in Vietnam. Yeah. And there's a number of other films you can throw into that genre too, like Platoon and Full Metal Jacket. And, any Vietnam film is basically going to be a depressing film.
Right.
Ernest Goes to Boot Camp.
Unless you're talking about Tropic Thunder. So the last thing I have on here is Oscar nominations were announced this week. I'm not going to get into them in this episode because this is a pretty long one to begin with, but I will be throwing a mini pod out there, going over the different films that have been nominated this year for Best Picture, Actor, and Actress and such.
Something of the Dog was nominated.
Power of the Dog was nominated.
And I hear it sucks.
I don't know. I've heard different things about it. I'll probably watch it just to see.
I've heard the first 15 minutes are great. Then after that, it just blows.
It's a kind of movie where it's like there's not really much of a linear plot. You have to kind of like it's about the characters themselves. But other films have been nominated that I was excited about, like Tick Tick Boom was nominated. Andrew Garfield was nominated. one that I knew was going to be in there was that King Richard movie with Will Smith.
Right.
Tragedy, Macbeth got nominated, and then Don't Look Up got nominated for Best Picture, even though I don't think it was that great a film. And so did the one that I talked about earlier, Nightmare Alley, got nominated for Best Picture. But I kind of feel like it's a Guillermo del Toro, always shits gold. So let's put his films up for Best Picture all the time. So
Yeah.
So if you're interested in knowing about my opinion on some of the Oscar nominees, look for my mini pod that I'll be releasing probably prior to this episode. This episode will be dropping on Monday, which is Valentine's Day. It is Thursday as we record this. This is why we decided to do this very special episode, most depressing movies of all time.
Also to get it off the damn list.
No, I actually was like excited to do it after we finally decided to, and I'm like, I actually have more fun doing this tonight than I thought I would.
You're also 3 drinks into it before you get started.
I'm 3 drinks and Mackenzie's into this, so I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good right now. And so next week we'll be doing episode 49, and in honor of the Winter Olympics, we're going to be doing a Olympics episode. I was going to say a Special Olympics episode, but that really wouldn't be
No.
The Ringer?
Let's not get us in trouble, guys.
Yeah, so I actually have my drink. I already have my drink chosen for next week too, so that should be pretty.
So do I.
So next week,
Got mine too.
Episode 49, Olympic episode. So thank you for joining us tonight for episode 48, most depressing films of all time, the Valentine's Day special. We hope you enjoyed listening to the program as much as we enjoyed recording it. Please drop us a line at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com. Visit us on Instagram at filmsfermentation or facebook.com/filmsfermentation. Like I said earlier, please subscribe to our show. Leave us some comments on the different platforms that you listen to. It's the only way we're going to be able to grow this audience, and we really want to try to grow the audience. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
Oh, I messed up. I was going to say, hi, I'm Huge Beaver. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us at the cross section of pickled and fermented. I am definitely pickled and fermented right now.
Yeah, because it's Crossroads.
It's Crossroads. I know. I don't fucking care anymore.
Crosshairs,
Crossroads, Huge Beavers, depends, whatever. I don't know. I'm probably gonna
conceive with Huge Beaver.
Conceived by Huge Beavers. I'm gonna probably crash when this episode's over. So thank you everybody for joining us again. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.